Hi guys, welcome back. We're actually here officially with season 2 of the Reef Podcast. I'm your host Louis IPA, and I'm actually going to be joined by Snow here on behalf of Thomas, because Thomas actually is going to be absent today, unfortunately. But we got ourselves an outstanding guest here, guys. He's a huge fan of retro games and indie games alike. Please welcome HourGamer. Hi, Hour.
Hey man, how you doing?
Good. So happy to see you here, man.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure, man. I'm glad to be here.
How excited you feel about being part of this podcast, dude?
Oh man, this is awesome. I've been listening to all the episodes and everything. If I can't catch them live, I listen to them on Spotify, and it's just you've had some great gamers and streamers on here, and I'm just honored and excited to be here, man.
Well, I mean, the pleasure is all ours, man. I mean, we thank you for actually taking the time off to actually be part of this.
So, yeah, man, it's no problem at all.
So I wanted to ask, care to introduce yourself to the public real quick?
Well, for those of you that don't know, I'm HouraDayGamer. Everybody just calls me Hour for short. It's just way easier to talk to me and stuff when people are streaming and everything if they just call me Hour. So, yeah, everybody just calls me Hour. But yeah, I love to play, test, give feedback on, stream, promote indie games, and I mean, I'm just really, really big into the indie world. I want to help as many game developers as I can to get their game out there. So I hope that I can provide a good platform for them to come in and get their games in the eyes and the hands of gamers.
Awesome, man. I mean, I bet you probably have played so many retro games back then, from the early Super Nintendo stages and really early Nintendo days, I would say.
Oh, definitely. I grew up playing games. My first system that I played was the Atari 2600, and I started with Pac-Man. It was a great game, and I just fell in love with gaming. And so when I play a lot of these indie games, there's a lot of them that remind me of the Nintendo games, the Super Nintendo games, that whole retro vibe. So that's another reason I really love indie games. It takes me back to being a kid and just having a lot of fun playing some games.
Wow. I mean, all I remember from back in regular Super Nintendo days would have to be Mega Man, Pilot Wings. Man, so many games that were actually challenging, they actually had a challenge to them.
Yeah, actually games back in the day were really, really hard, especially before they implemented the save system, to where you could only sit down, and unless the game was on the entire time, I mean, you just lost all your progress if the power went out, or if you had a game before bedtime, you had to leave it on all night until the next day in order to continue where you left off. So I mean, games were so much harder back then.
Yeah, right. I mean, I remember also, like I said a little while ago about Mega Man. I remember sitting hours playing that game, and every time I would actually just have to write down the passcode of every level that I beat, because you never know when your power would go out, and you actually had to write down the password, otherwise you lost all your progress that you did.
Exactly, yeah, man. Always had to have a pen and paper handy.
Exactly. All right, so what else besides indie games? I know you've been testing a couple of them in the last couple of times that I've seen you go live. I mean, besides indie games, would you ever actually get the privilege, if somebody actually came from a big company and said, "Hey, we want you to test this game," would you actually test it?
Oh yeah, man, that'd be really, really awesome. I'm actually a game tester. That has a nice title to it, man. That'd be a great job to have, a full-time game tester. But yeah, definitely if somebody like Treyarch or Activision or anybody like that, if they came in and said, "Hey, we want you to try out this game and let us know what you think," I'd be all on board for that, man. That'd be awesome.
Right. I mean, there's only a handful of people that actually get to work at Treyarch, but I mean, hey, if the opportunity comes, I would take it as soon as possible, dude.
Oh, heck yeah, man. You'd be silly not to, I think.
So, another question I had for you is, what actually got you into Twitch? When did you join Twitch?
Well, I created a Twitch account last February, so about a year ago, about the same time I started Twitter and everything. I started watching a few small streamers like Uncle Unicorn was one of my favorites and still is one of my favorites. And Crossing Grave, they're two great guys that I started watching. And really, Uncle Unicorn, he had these lunchtime streams. We were in the same time zone, so when he got lunch, I was at lunch, and he would just sit at his desk and chat and eat lunch, and there'd be a ton of people in there. And that's when I really decided, like, man, I really need to make this whole streaming thing happen. But I didn't actually start streaming until last September, just because of my internet limitations.
Right, and you come a long way, man. I mean, like the fact that every time I go, I always see you play like a brand new game. Like the last one I saw, you were playing like a detective game, I believe.
Yeah, that was a great new game called Quest Arrest, and it was actually built in a Game Boy, engine. So it's actually, man, I just felt like I was sitting there playing the old-fashioned Game Boy again. And these indie developers are so awesome, man. Every single one of them, they're so friendly, and they just need somebody to give them a platform to get their game out there. And so they really come to me, man, and they just ask me, like, hey, do you want to try to promote this game a little bit and play it, and we'll give you the game, and just let us know what you think. More than anything, really, they want feedback too, because they want to make sure it's a good game.
Right.
And I mean, man, I have so many games backlogged and stuff, it's hard to keep up, but I love each and every single one of these developers that I've come to know so well.
So basically, like, what you're trying to say is, like, you always want to give an opportunity to a game developer to come out and actually say, like, hey, can you try out this game for me?
Yep, that's exactly it, man. That's what I like to do. I like to help people and promote, and use Twitter especially to help promote as many people as I can.
Right. I mean, it's just rare to see, like, individuals like yourself to actually come out of their shell and actually say, you know what, I'm gonna help promote people because I love doing this. And that's just unique, man. I mean, it still happens nowadays, but I mean, I rarely see it anymore.
Right. And I have heard some quote unquote horror stories from some of the devs, like where they'll come along and find people that are really just in it to get free games and stuff. They don't want to pay for games, so they'll find these developers who are just trying to get their name out there, and they'll just take their game, and you'll never hear from them again. So I mean, the game developers themselves have to be really, really careful too. But I think or I hope that I can provide a good enough platform with a resume, so to speak, that they know they can trust me with their games, and then I'll give them an honest opinion and do the best I can for them.
Guys, how's it going?
Hey,
SnowObsidian here.
What's up, Snow?
Doing well, man.
Nothing much. Just finished up my dinner. I was looking a little bit, so hope you don't mind me doing that.
I didn't mind at all, man. So glad to have you here.
Like
Just looking for the opportunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, Snow is actually going to be taking ThomasGovens' place, because ThomasGovens is actually going to be absent today. But I mean, we have Snow with us, and we got, of course, our guest, HourGamer, here.
Thank you, man. I'm going to miss Thomas, man. Thomas has some really good questions on all the previous episodes. I'm like, man, how did he even think to ask that question?
Hey, but I mean, he's in our spirits, though. He's with us. So
yes.
If you're listening to this, Thomas, we love you, and we hope you actually have a good Sunday, and we hope to see you back next week with the next podcast. But another thing I wanted to ask too, was how did you build such a great community, like with a bunch of indie developers? Like, how did you open up to them and everything?
It just kind of started with Law Mage Academy. That was the first indie game that I ever streamed, and I built up a really good relationship with him, just chatting back and forth on Twitter. And we promoted the game like a month ahead of time about, here's going to be the first indie stream. It was the world premiere stream of his game. And, I think, and he was pretty big in the community himself, in the indie community. People know him and stuff. So I think he kind of helped me spread the word around. And that first stream went so well that other developers started reaching out to me and wanting me to try their game out. So I think that's really where I got started, was Law Mage Academy.
Mm-hmm. So before I actually get more in depth with a couple more questions, is there anybody out there that you actually want to give shout outs to?
Well, like I said, Law Mage Academy for sure. That's where I really got my start in the indie gaming, and that's really what I focus on now is indie gaming, and really I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for him specifically in the indie world. And Jim G. King, I met him early on, and he's a super great guy. I've known him actually really probably for almost a year now, right when I started Twitter. And he had a pretty good following, and he reached out, and we just started communicating, and we became pretty good friends. And he's one of those guys that if we lived closer together, like we would go out on a Friday night and sit and have a beer or something together. He's just one of those guys. I really like him. And Fam for Gamers, now you interviewed him 2 weeks ago, I believe, and he is really, really awesome. And my stream would not be possible without him, because I knew absolutely nothing about Streamlabs or how to stream or set it up or anything. And I had known him long enough and become good enough friends with him that I actually allowed him to remote into my PC, and man, he really helped me get everything going and make the stream what it is today.
Right. I mean, whenever we talk to Fam for Gamers, I would say hey, this guy is actually gonna be awesome to talk to, because I don't know how he does it, that he actually basically streams his whole family. It's insane. I mean, it's awesome to see. I mean, it's just crazy how he does it.
Yeah, so much going on there, man. I can barely handle one computer, and he's handling 4.
Who knows? Crazy. More than that, probably.
Oh yeah, probably, I'm sure.
So
may I?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Question for you, girl. Almost a girl. Oh my gosh, that would have been horrible.
Oh no.
Oh man, now I'm in for it now. Our day. Got a quick question for you. Have you ever had any road bumps in your your little campaign with your helping out indie game developers and promoting their stuff? Have you ever had any road bumps with them, or in your progress?
Not really. I mean, for the most part, every developer I've met, I'm actually in a Discord community called the Indie World Order, and we've got over 800 people in there, and most of them are game developers. And I haven't met one that puts me off, or makes me like, oh man, these guys are, I don't want to be around the indie world because this guy ruined it for me. It's everybody is just super awesome, and I feel like I can strike up a conversation with any of them, and they're gonna respond, and they're just gonna be friendly, and they're just good people.
All right, Lewis, passing the mic back to you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna start a couple of the questions already that I have here for you, if you're ready to answer something.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so question number 1. What is the first game you ever owned and beat 100%?
Oh, wow. Ever owned and beat 100%.
You got everything on the game.
Well, the original Mario Brothers was very difficult, and I never actually beat that until I was an adult. So the first game that I ever actually beat 100% would be probably Super Mario Brothers 2.
Wow.
And yeah, that was a classic game, and I really loved the whole style. It's a standout among the other Mario games. It's completely different, with the whole storyline and everything is different. So I really liked that game. So I spent a lot of time playing Super Mario Brothers 2.
I got to say that all the classic Super Mario games are always fun.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What is the meaning behind your Twitch name, HouraDayGamer?
Well, I started out doing YouTube, and because I didn't have fast enough internet here at home to stream. I barely had fast enough internet to play online games like Call of Duty and stuff like that. So yeah, I needed a name, and I had no idea what to come up with. I wanted something catchy and something memorable. So one day I was just looking through Call of Duty, and you can look through your stats and stuff, and I went through my total game time, and it was 72 hours. I had played 72 hours of Call of Duty, and I was like, okay, 72 hours. And at that time, it had been out for 115 days or something like that. So it'd been out for several months, and I was like, okay, so I took that time and I divided it by the number of days, and it came up to 47 minutes a day. And I'm like, 47 minutes a day, that doesn't really have a good ring to it. It doesn't sound good. So I round it up, and all of a sudden, HouraDayGamer was there, and I'm like, oh man, that sounds really cool. So that's where it got started, man. That's how it happened.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I see we have a couple of questions in the community already, which I really appreciate you guys so much for already asking a couple. Just feel free to ask as many as you want, guys. We have plenty of time today. So
and I will be logging them, so there's no worry about them getting lost in the void of the chat.
yeah, in the void of despair. All right.
The void of forgottenness.
They are archived.
All right. Question number 3. This is actually an interesting one that you probably like, Our. Do you plan on ever being an indie developer or a game developer yourself?
Oh man, I would love to, because I would like to think that I have a decent imagination and I've played enough games to where like I know what would make a good game. But I really the time, man, I just don't have enough time to learn how to code and program and all that kind of stuff that goes into that. And so it'd be one of those things that I would love to do, but maybe when I retire. I got like 15 more years till I can retire from work, and maybe then I'll have more time, and that'd be something that I might definitely like to get into.
Wow.
If you like creating, designing, anything, like literally anything, I have a great recommendation for you.
What's
if you
that?
own a PS4, just amazing game called Dreams.
I heard of that. I'm thinking about getting it as soon as I get like a little bit of things taken care of. But I heard of that. That's actually something I recommend to Our.
What was the name of that? It was kind of soft. I didn't quite hear the name.
It was Dreams.
Dreams. Okay.
It's made by Media Molecule, the same creators who made Little Big Planet. Basically, if you can sculpt it, if you can think of it, if you can think it, you can make it. You can make
Starting to
sculpture.
say, I draw a pretty good stick figure, but that's about it.
Hey, just because you draw a stick figure doesn't mean that you're not gonna be a great game developer. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
Anybody out there can be a successful game developer. All it takes is just hard work and passion.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right. So
And education.
I know I asked this earlier, but I'm gonna ask it again to the new viewers that are here. When did you arrive on Twitch? Like not streaming, but when did you actually started watching streamers before you actually started doing streaming?
It was probably around last February, somewhere in that ballpark. It's February 2019, and like I said, I just started watching a couple of small streamers, and I just thought, man, I really want to do this someday. And they kind of helped motivate me, because I told them, hey, I want to do this, and they kind of gave me some tips and stuff. But like I said, I live out in the middle of nowhere, so the internet was really the only thing limiting me, a year ago. So finally in September, I was able to finally get good internet out here, and that's when I started streaming.
Okay. Question number 5. What is your one dream you always wanted your whole life?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've loved video games my whole life, and video games have always been a great outlet for me. Like with whatever's going on in life, good days, bad days, whatever, gaming has always been a way to kind of escape the real world. So I've always kind of wanted to be a full-time gamer. But like back in the day, before Twitch came about and everything like that, when I was in high school and stuff, that wasn't even really a possibility. A full-time gamer wasn't even a thing. And but I always kind of knew that I would love to do that someday. Like I always want to be a video game tester. You could put it that way. And now I'm kind of getting to do that. So it's really, really awesome that this is what I'm getting to do.
They always say whenever you actually have to something that you're passionate about, you have to I always think about I picture myself looking at a ladder, and every step that I take on that ladder, I basically climb a little bit more every day. And then even if I ever reach the top, I'm actually not gonna stop there. I'm gonna keep climbing that ladder until I know where I want to be, and then I'll be like, okay, you know what? I'm successful. I'm doing awesome, and I know I can actually achieve anything, and I can actually do even better than that.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, man. Little steps, take it one step at a time and just reach your goals. One goal at a time.
I'm going to grab the mic from you real quick, Lewis.
Okie dokie. There you go.
So, who do you look up to? Like, who do you look at and you think, man, he's a great guy. I want to be like him someday. Who do you look up to like that?
Like, out of anybody, or just like in the Twitch, streaming realm? Like,
take your pick. I was
Well-
thinking the Twitch thing, actually. I just
Okay.
think now you mention it.
well, in the Twitch thing, I'll go back to this one, and Uncle Unicorn. He still is one of my favorite streamers. He's had some stuff going on, and he's had to relocate to a different part of the country and all that stuff, for a new job and all that. So he doesn't stream as much as he used to. But man, when he lived in my time zone, and he would stream at lunch and sit there and eat his lunch while he chatted with everybody. There'd be like 50 or 60 people in there just talking the entire time. There was never a dull moment. And, I really just thought, and he was always so calm and made sure to keep up with everybody that came through and make sure he didn't miss anything in the chat and everything like that. And I'm like, man, this guy is really cool. And, I want to be able to achieve that in my streams. And I try to do that. So like whenever I'm streaming, I always try, I'll even stop the game and sit and talk for just a few minutes just to make sure that I keep up with everybody in chat, because I don't want anybody to feel left out when they're in the stream. Because, if you watch some of these big streamers, they only talk to like their subscribers or, people who are helping them financially or anything. So like if I just pop into a big stream, I don't even get heard. So I want to make sure that everybody that comes through has a voice and feels welcome and feels like family.
That's actually.
So yeah, Uncle Unicorn.
Nice. Hey, do you have a reference to this Uncle Unicorn? Like not necessarily a reference, but like a link to his channel or something?
Yeah, it's twitch.tv/uncle_unicorn_.
If you could put that into the chat, Lewis, that'd be amazing.
I'm doing it right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, man, he's a super awesome guy, man.
So I'm gonna.
Back to you, Sir Lewis.
Yep, I was about to grab it from you. All right. So.
No, my mic.
So, how did you hear about the Reef Podcast? That's the big question.
How did I hear about the Reef Podcast? Well, I've known you for quite a while. We've talked on Twitter, we talk on Discord. So whenever you told me that, I heard about it from you. We were talking about it one day, and I think, I just like, oh man, a podcast, that is so cool. So like that's why I've been listening to every episode on Spotify, and I haven't checked them out on YouTube yet, but I do listen to them on Spotify. And like I said, man, I just love podcasts. I love listening to them. I love being a part of them when I can. And so yeah, I heard about it from you.
Do you have a question right now, Snow, or you want me to keep going?
Keep going. I'm gonna address the chat a little bit.
All right.
Just remind them that we still got questions we can.
This is actually a very
accept.
interesting one right here. What is the hardest indie game you have played and the easiest game you played?
Oh man, it's actually a close tie for first place on the hardest game. Let's see, I played Rain Dancer, and I don't know how many times I died. There wasn't a death counter on it, but I know I died at least 100 times trying to beat that game. And there's like, you just hop into the game and there's 5 bosses, and you have to beat each one. You can beat them in any order you want, and they each give you a specific type of power or perk, and kind of like Mega Man in that sense. But so there is kind of a suggested order to beat them in. And man, I died so much from that, and it was just absolutely crazy, and I was losing my mind. But I had the developers in the chat with me, and they were encouraging me. Hey man, you were so close. You can get it this time. And so finally I did. I beat the game. And then the other one that is also super hard, I died over 400 times, and I still have only beat like half the game, half the number of levels in it. And it's called Rage Among the Stars. And that is a perfect name because it definitely makes you rage. And it's just super challenging. There's so many ways to die, spikes, saws, anything like that. And you're just you have to perfectly time your jumps and everything. It's crazy hard, but it's so much fun. Oh, and then now the easiest one, right?
Yes, the easiest indie game you play.
The easiest one, well, I don't know. Oh, Exile Squadron. That's probably well, there's no probably about it. That is my favorite indie game I've played so far, and it's kind of hard at first if you've never played a game like that before, but man, it is so much fun and super easy once you get the hang of it. And at one time, he has a global leaderboard, and at one time, I was actually #1 in the world at it, and now I'm like third. So, but yeah, I love that game, and it's really easy.
Question number 8: do you recommend anyone to this podcast? If so, name a few.
Yeah, well, here's Burraflux Gaming, and I've talked to him a little bit, and Jim G King, he's here. He's from some of our communities and stuff. I just, anytime that I hear anybody looking for podcasts, like I get a lot of messages on Twitter. I can't even keep track of all of them, but I make sure and I hit each message. And there's a lot of people, they'll say, hey, do you know a GFX artist? I'm looking for a certain design. I'll say, okay, here's somebody that I know. They'll say, hey, do you know, in your case, a podcast? Somebody I'd like a podcast to listen to while I'm at work. I'll recommend them to you or another guy that I know. So, there's just, I get so many messages, but yeah, I do recommend your podcast to anybody that asks.
Well, we appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. I love helping everybody out as much as I can.
All right. So, question number 9. What do you do for a living exactly?
Well, I install, and I don't know what my title is. I guess you could call it a natural gas technician or whatever. But yeah, I install and maintain natural gas pipelines and like the customer service connections to like customers' houses and stuff.
The 2 last questions that I have for you are actually gonna make you think a little bit, but
oh boy,
I think you're ready for this. So here we go.
Okay.
If you had to choose between working at an indie company or a huge game company, which one would you pick and why?
I'd be the indie company for sure. Because whether you're playing the game or streaming the game or talking to the developers, I mean, everything, you get a one-on-one feel. There's a one-on-one relationship with all the indie developers, as opposed to, if I was working for a big company, my voice would never be heard. I'd never actually get to meet the people that I'm making the game for or helping out and everything. Whereas with the indie gaming scene, I mean, you meet so many people and form so many great relationships and everything, man. I would never want to give that part up. So that one actually is pretty easy. Definitely the indie company for sure.
Okay. And what kind of games would you actually make for the indie company?
What I would make for an indie company, like I said, assuming that I had the knowledge and the resources in order to make it, which I obviously don't have the knowledge, I would do an open world adventure. Open world games are some of my favorite games. Skyrim, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Borderlands to an extent. That's kind of open world, even though the maps are specific areas and there are limitations, but it still kind of feels like an open world because you can go explore and stuff like that. So I love open world games. And so, yeah, I'd like to think that if I was going to make a game, it'd be an open world adventure to where you could just explore everything for hours and hours and hours and still not find everything.
And the last question that I have for you right here, how do you manage social media?
How do I manage?
Because I see you just replying to everybody, retweeting everybody, liking everybody. I mean, it's just mind-blowing to see that, man. I mean, I can keep up with everything.
Well, in 1 year on Twitter, I joined in February of 2019 on Twitter. I've got like over 34,000 tweets, and I don't know how many likes I've got. But yes, I mean, yeah, I'm on there a lot. And fortunately with my job, I'm able to, there's a guy in the machine, digging a trench. And while he's digging the trench, we're just kind of standing there. So, it's easy for me to okay, I can at least once an hour, I can hurry up and catch up on Twitter or something, because once we put the stick of pipe in the hole, we have to weld it. Once we're done welding it, then we got to wait for him to keep digging the trench. So that takes a little bit. So I'm able to sit there real quick on my phone and respond to stuff and get back on it and still get the job done. So
Man,
That's
so you
how I'm able
basically a multitasker kami-sama.
a multitasker for sure, yeah. And at night, it's actually a little more difficult at night because I spend a lot of time with my family, and whether it's going to school events or sporting events for my son or whatever, just hanging out, talking about our day, watching TV and movies as a family. Every now and then we'll read a book as a family. So yeah, I don't want to sacrifice that. Excuse me. I don't want to sacrifice that to to do my gaming and stuff like that. So Twitter actually does in the evening take a little bit of a side seat until like everybody's kind of winding down, getting ready to go to bed and all that stuff, and then I'll get back on and I'll catch up with everything, and that's when I stream as well, is after everybody's gone to bed.
And that's why you actually do like an hour a day, pretty much.
Yep, because by the time I actually get sat down and ready to play, I can only play for about an hour until it's my bedtime. I'm kind of an old man, it seems, sometime, and 36 isn't old per se, but when you work all day and everything, you're tired when you get home, and so yeah, about an hour is all I can muster sometimes, if that.
Hey, it's an hour of fun though.
It is, man.
All right, Snow, here you go. Here's the mic.
Thank you. So I got a question for you, Hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do I explain this? So, what is your favorite genre of games? Now, I don't mean genre in terms of like design. I'm talking game mechanics, like first-person shooter or turn-based RPGs, that kind of thing. What's your favorite genre?
Well, I've always been a fan of like the side-scroller space shooter. Kind of like Defender 2 or R-Type, those retro games. And actually, that's what I talked about Exile Squadron earlier, and that's what Exile Squadron is. It's a side-scrolling space shooter, and it's so much fun.
Yeah,
have you ever heard of Gradius 5?
You even actually recommended it to me to actually play it, so I definitely have to take the time to actually play it. Yeah,
super awesome game, man.
Okay.
What was that? That was kind of low. I can't hardly.
Here, let me turn up my sensitivity while I talk. Have you ever heard of Gradius 5?
No, I don't think I have.
Arcade game. So basically, it's a similar arcade space shooter game. So it's a side-scroller space shooter where you, like, if you get hit once, you're dead kind of thing.
Oh, like
almost like a
super hard, man. Yeah, if you get hit if you can only take one hit, that really ups the ante on the difficulty.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a pretty neat game, actually.
I will note that down, and I'll try to check that out sometime.
Sure.
I'm always looking for new games, man. I love finding new games, and really no matter what the genre and everything, but especially in a genre that I like. I'm always looking to try and test out new games.
Next question from me would be, what are your top 3 favorite indie developers?
Oh my gosh.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one, man. Without making anybody feel like left out or anything, but I mentioned Law Mage Academy earlier. His name's Jin. He goes by Verenius here on Twitch. He's super awesome, man. I've talked to him probably more than any of the other developers. So he is really, really awesome, man. He's just a great guy, and from the Philippines. A great developer from over there, and he's gone to several indie conventions and stuff like that. So I really like him. And another one, Skull Commando Labs. He goes by Lab Skull on Twitter, and I mean, he is just a machine as far as like retweeting goes. And I've talked to him really almost on a daily basis. I talk to him now, and there's very few days that go by that I don't actually send him a direct message at one point or another. And then probably number 3 is another one that I know probably the best, is right up there with the best of them, is Philippe. And he was the creator of Into a Dream. And that is it's a very emotional roller coaster driven, emotional game, and it's so much fun. And it's the art style. It actually won the Indie World Order award for best art style, art direction in 2019. So yeah, and that was really, really awesome game. And I talked to him almost daily, and I've actually got 2 voices in his game that it hasn't been released yet, but like, and when the full game comes out, you'll get to hear those 2 voices that I've done.
Nice. Well, I can't think of any at the moment, so well, in the meantime, how about we dive into the community questions then, shall we?
Yeah, sure.
I would love to hear some community questions.
All right,
wait.
let's get to it.
The Husky Chick asks this. Hour and Snow, I have a question. What got you into streaming and what got you this far?
Well, do you want to take that, Snow, or you want me to take that first?
Our, you're the guest here, so you have to.
All right. Well,
Priority.
what got me into streaming? I've talked about it a little bit here and there, and talked about Uncle Unicorn and everything, and about him being like one of my inspirations to do this, and but just because I saw how much fun he was having, and I knew how much fun I was having as a viewer. So that's kind of what got me into it, and that's when I decided, hey, I want to stream. I want to do this for fun, as a side gig, a hobby, or whatever you want to call it. I want to stream. So yeah, that's how I got my start on Twitch.
For me, I had a friend whose name I will not disclose at this time. I will wait until I'm interviewed. Who wanted me to play with him and stream with him as well. He had a that he was playing, and I had no way of showing people how I played along in the event. So I decided I was going to stream, and only stream, because I'm a YouTuber, so I didn't have Twitch at the time, so I YouTube streamed most of the event. And one thing led to another, and with a few name changes, I am who I am right now. SnowObsidian.
All right, next question.
Next question from Jim King.
Jim King.
Jim King.
King.
What is your favorite game of all time? And are you ever going to knock out Tyson?
Oh man, my favorite game of all time has to be, without a doubt, The Legend of Zelda, the original on the NES. And that's actually, like I said, I started on my Atari 2600 playing Pac-Man, but where I actually got my passion for gaming was The Legend of Zelda. I would watch my dad. I'd lay there in the floor next to him while he played on like this little bitty 13-inch TV and everything, and we'd be sitting in the floor. And this was back before the days of Google, and where you could just Google like what type the boss was, how to beat the level, or what the map was, or anything like that. He actually went through each dungeon in the game, and he drew on grid paper. He drew each dungeon, where the bomb holes were, where the keys were, where hidden items appeared after you beat all the enemies, where the compasses was, the maps were, all the items, what type of boss it was, how to beat him, all that stuff. He did all of that on grid paper. And I saw his passion for it, and I remember sitting there next to him while he did it and seeing how much fun it was, and I remember how much fun it was for me watching. So that's where I got my true passion for gaming, and that's why I still, I'm 36 years old and I still play games today. So yeah, that was my favorite game of all time, Legend of Zelda. And am I ever going to beat Tyson? I would love to try again, but the only time I've only beat him once in my entire life, and that was with all the cheat codes that I could possibly fit in there, and still I barely knocked him out before the end of round 3. Talking about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, if you didn't know.
Burflux Gaming, I'm not sure what the context is with this one, but what will your mini-series entail?
A mini-series? But like if I had my own show or something? Okay. Well, if I had my own show, like I'm picturing like a TV series that's on, like we used to have the old TGIF shows on Friday, like, Step by Step and Full House and stuff. I would probably have a mini series on Friday night.
You're cutting off a little bit.
We're sitting around brainstorming and trying to come up with the best game and competing against each, like a reality show type thing.
You got the next questions now?
Yeah. The Fat Juice. He returns with these questions.
Oh,
what was the first indie game that he fell in love with? He, I'm assuming, is Hour.
Yep.
Yeah, the first indie game I fell in love with was the one that really got me into the whole indie realm, and that was Lawmage Academy. Super awesome game, a JRPG, retro, Super Nintendo era style, and it fit how I like to play, and there's so many different options to fit so many different play styles. It's so in depth, and one little decision can affect things later on in the game, and I really like that aspect of games. So definitely Lawmage Academy for me.
Almost like those choose your own adventure books, something like that, right?
Yes. Yep.
What is your favorite cereal and why?
Oh boy. Actually, I don't eat it as much as I used to, but I've always loved a Cookie Crisp because, one, I love cookies, and I love cereal, so a cookie cereal just kind of really felt awesome. So yeah, when I was a kid growing up, man, I ate the heck out of Cookie Crisp cereal.
Once again from the Fat Juice, what indie game disappointed you the most and why?
I hate to not talk bad about indie games or any developers, because I know all of them on a personal level when I play their game. But one that was kind of a, if you want to call it a letdown, was one called Frostbite. And you're just like up on this mountainside, and it's snowing and everything, and if anything hits you, like there was an airplane, a wrecked airplane sitting there. If I walked into the side of the airplane, I died. And there's these little monsters coming after you, which is great. I mean, the art style was actually awesome on it, but it was the story for me that messed it up, because I didn't know what to do. You're supposed to be trying to find a way off this mountain and survive, and really, anytime you touched anything, you died. And like if I went up too steep of a hill, my character actually would tip over and I'd die. So I didn't really feel like I vibed well with that game. And to me, that's probably the one game that was a quote-unquote letdown. Even though it's still, some people might love it, it just wasn't for me.
The Fat Juice says, are you left-handed?
Yes, I am. I'm a southpaw.
So, Burflux Gaming asked, if you were not a streamer or influencer, what would you have done instead?
I probably would have continued to do the same thing that I've always done. It'd be the same, really, the same schedule. I just come home and be with my family, and when everybody goes to bed, I'll sit and play my game. Okay. Usually it was Call of Duty.
All right. So another question from Jim King. He says, when did you know you became the GOAT?
A little bit. She's never really played video games, so some of these newer games like Call of Duty and stuff like that, there's just no way she'd be able to pick them up quickly. So I started her with a retro style game called Horizon Chase Turbo, and it's a lot like the old Top Gear game on Super Nintendo. So I started her with that and Crash Team Racing, a lot like Mario Kart, because we actually used to play a little bit of Mario Kart on the Wii, and she liked it. So yeah, we do occasionally. We'll boot up the PS4 and we'll sit there in bed together and play a racing game like that. But that's really about the extent of it.
I actually do have another question for you, Hour.
Okay.
Game systems you own, like consoles, PC, handhelds.
Okay.
Which one is your favorite, and why?
Oh my gosh. See, I've still got my entire collection going all the way back. I still have my Atari 2600. I still have Pac-Man and Asteroids and all that stuff. I've got everything. The only things I don't have are my PlayStation 2, because when I moved out of my parents' house, my brothers, they sold it. So that was against my knowledge or whatever. But anyway, so they sold that, and I actually recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, I actually donated my PlayStation 1 and like 50 games to a local kid here who lost everything in a fire. And his grandma works with my mom, so she got talking, and my mom's like, hey, my son still has all his old stuff, so I actually gave him my entire setup with the PlayStation 1. And But yeah, other than that, I've still got all my old retro stuff, man, and it's really awesome. But if I had to choose one of them that's my absolute favorite, it'd be the Super Nintendo. So many great games. There's a game for everybody, every style of gamer. So if you ever play the Super Nintendo and you can't find something for you that you like, you might be in the wrong, career field or whatever. You shouldn't be gaming if you can't find something on the Super Nintendo.
That actually brings back actually a question that I had too. So you have a PlayStation 4, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much like I was thinking maybe one day, if you want to, I would like to play Contra 3 with you, because if you ever get this thing called the Contra collection that they have, I actually found out recently that you can do share play with somebody and actually play online with somebody.
Oh, okay.
So that would be
I'll
actually...
write that down. Contra collection.
Yes.
I am interested.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, man. I'd love to do a little collab work with you there.
Yep. So we just got another question from Jim King, Snow?
Yep, I am on it. Jim King, best social media for gaming is what he asks.
Oh boy. So I'm assuming you're talking like YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Sliver, Facebook. You probably want to know which platform's the best. Mixer. I would say if I had to, I'm on Twitch, so if I had to choose, I'd say Twitch. YouTube is just a little too stringent on stuff, man. They're really down on the small content creators, so to me it's really hard to grow and get anywhere on YouTube. I just really like Twitch, man. It's got a good feel about it, and that's where I originally started watching streamers, so that's just kind of what I've stuck with. So I would say Twitch.
Ooh, we just got 2 more questions pop up.
Yeah, fan for gamers, that question has already been answered, but just because you are amazing, I'm going to ask it again. What is your favorite game of all time?
The Legend of Zelda, man. Like I said earlier, I remember vividly sitting there next to my dad in the floor, while he played, and he just went through and made maps of every dungeon, every item, every boss, the ins and outs of the game, every, like, in the overworld, not including the dungeon, but like the original game itself came with a big overworld map in the box, and he would actually draw on that map and deface the map, if you want to call it that, but yeah, he would draw on it and say, okay, you can use your candle here and burn this bush down, and there's a secret entrance, and here's what's in there. Either you owe 30 coins, or there's the matching game, or the Getsing game, you want to call it. I mean, he had all that stuff written down, and it's just super awesome, and I still have them somewhere. I don't know where. They're in a box downstairs in my basement, but I need to try to find them because I know they still exist.
Alright. Indian Print comes up with his first question. Emulator or original? Emulation versus...
Yeah, when I stream my retro games, I've done like Donkey Kong Country, Lost Vikings, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Mario Kart, Mario World, all that stuff. I actually use an emulator because I don't have a capture card. And, to avoid the legal situation, where, Nintendo or whoever comes down on you and says, hey, you can't do that, that's my game. I only emulate games that I actually own a physical copy of. So actually recently I went out to a gaming convention in St. Louis, and, it was just basically like a big indoor yard sale of, gamers. And there were so many Super Nintendo games, Sega, Nintendo, any game system you could think of was there, and there was something to buy. So I actually bought a couple of new games. That way I could be able to stream them, because I've had people ask me to stream those games. So I actually purchased those games so I would be able to, quote unquote, legally stream them.
Honestly, if I would actually see those games on, like, a table, like, for somebody that somebody's actually selling, I would honestly probably cry. I'll be like, my memories are right here.
Exactly, man. There was one guy there. He had his entire collection. He said that he was selling all of his old Nintendo games to make room for, I believe, Nintendo 64. So, and he once he completes a collection, he takes pictures of them and He has them up on a shelf for a while, but then when he wants to collect something else, he's limited on room in his house, so he has to make sacrifices. So he was selling his entire regular Nintendo collection. And if I would have had the money, I would have been all over that.
Okay. All right. So I have one last question to wrap up the Reef Podcast today.
Okay.
Do you put pineapples on pizza?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no question about it. There's no debate for me. It is absolutely 100% no.
Okay. All right. So Fan for Gamers has one last question. How do you feel about games moving to digital versus actual hard media?
I still prefer physical copies just because I'm an old school guy. If it's messing up, I want to be able to take it out and blow on it to get it to work. And, I spent so many years doing that growing up that it's just kind of a habit, or if I have a disc, like a PS4 disc or anything, I try to wipe it down if it's, skipping a little bit or something, whatever. I prefer physical. I know digital is so much faster, it's so much easier, there's less stuff going on with it, but man, I really prefer to actually hold a physical copy in my hand.
Okay. All right. Well, that actually wraps up the episode today, guys. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Hour, for joining us today on the Reef Podcast. It has been a pleasure.
Oh man, the pleasure's all mine. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, just letting you guys know, wait, you were gonna say something, Steph?
No, I was just gonna say applause to good sir HouraDayGamer.
Yep.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys. I love what you guys are doing here with the show, and I wish you guys nothing but the best. And I'm gonna continue to listen to it every week on Spotify, and try to help you guys with the retweets and the shout outs and stuff like that, and see if we make this thing take off for you guys.
We appreciate that, man. But also, I wanted to give a shout out to everybody that's here: Fan for Gamers, James King, Indie Print Imprint, everybody that came out and actually asked questions and actually supported the stream today. You guys are nothing but the best. I mean, this actually is our second season that we have. As you can see, the music actually changed for our background. That's because I actually plan on doing every month that we have a new season, we're actually gonna change the background music. The first month we had actually ukulele, and this one is actually called Dreamy. It's actually a really nice little beat to it. So I figured hey, let's update the music and actually change it every season. So that's something I actually thought of for the whole week, and I think it actually came out great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
All right. So is there anything else you want to say to the public right here, Hour?
Man, I just want to say that I love supporting everybody and trying to help people out as much as I can. And I appreciate everybody. All the relationships I've formed with people, and I like to say that I don't have followers. I've got friends and family. So yeah, I just appreciate everybody.
Okay. Snow, is there anything else you want to say?
Not that I can think of, but other than thank you so much for being here today, HouraDayGamer. It was definitely a pleasure to talk to you.
And I do have one last thing to say, that I want all of us to wish a happy birthday to my good buddy Crazy UK. Today is his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Crazy. You are awesome, dude. Alright, so thank you again, guys. You guys are what actually make me actually keep on going with this podcast. And again, thanks again for all the support. Next week, we're actually going to be back with King Agni. We're actually going to be talking to King Agni. It's going to be awesome. And I hope to see you guys there. He's actually a smaller streamer, but I mean, I gotta tell you, this guy works hard at actually being a streamer, and he definitely needs to get recognized. So I figured, let's get him an interview so that way people can know who he is. So I appreciate you guys.
That's awesome.
And I hope to see you all next weekend when we actually interview King Agni. And the weekend after that, we'll be doing the Comic-Con talk.
Oh yeah, about that.
That is awesome.
Weren't we going to talk about the Comic-Con about throughout the entire month or something like that?
Well, pretty much like we're actually gonna have a special episode the week after King Agni's podcast, and on Sunday we're gonna sit down and me, ThomasGovens, and Snow. We're gonna be talking about Comic-Con, and I'll be sharing some images of the experience that I had over there, and it'll be like a little image slideshow to show you guys. So it should be fun.
Very fun. Alright, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up then.
Well, thank you again, guys, for everything. You guys are awesome. I hope you guys check out HourDayGamer and all his social medias that he has. He's an awesome individual. Definitely get to know him. Very kind, very awesome soul.
Appreciate that, man.
You guys have a good one.